Hey everybody, Crazy Cosmo here, and today on a special episode of Why Was It Cancelled, we're going to talk about the Sci-Fi channel, or as you might know it today, Sci-Fi. Both are correct, however it has gone by 3 different names in its time of operation since it was created back in September of 1992. Originally it was called the Sci-Fi channel with a hyphen, then it became Sci-Fi when they changed to a heavy focus on science fiction back in 1999. At this time was when they actually acquired Sliders, and we already talked about how they changed Sliders from a plucky little fantasy what-if kind of story to a total science fiction war story about Quinn Mallory, warrior of the multiverse, taking on the Cro-Mags. Not a great look. It also has to be noted, however, that this heavy focus on sci-fi, which started in 1999 and lasted a decade, actually prompted the acquisition of the entire Stargate franchise to begin with, and even started the creation of certain other original sci-fi broadcasting, like the remake of Flash Gordon that lasted a couple of seasons from 2007 on. For whatever reason, viewership was flagging across all of Sci-Fi around 2008-2009. Now, it was of course still known as Sci-Fi, no hyphen, no channel, as they had rebranded themselves back in 1999, but in 2009 they would rebrand themselves once again to Sci-Fi as we know it today, SYFY. And it would also see them steering away from the heavy focus on science fiction, which is what they believed to be dragging down viewership. This would lead the newly branded Sci-Fi into acquisitions of things like WWE and animation, pushing shows like Stargate Universe out of their primetime slots and moving them to far less desirable time slots in the earlier parts of the week, when people without a DVR or a TiVo were going to find it much more difficult to locate their favorite shows, and thus the market share got even smaller. And especially at the time, as some people have hinted in other comments, there was really no way for them to note how many views were coming through by TiVo and DVR and being watched afterwards. So none of that was counted towards any of the shows when looking at how much they were actually making. And for a while, the Sci-Fi brand actually did quite well. In 2013, they created a little movie that nobody thought was going to do anything, which was called Sharknado. It made so much money, they ended up doing, 5 sequels, I think, at this point? However, it got to a point where once again viewership started to flag, so in 2017, even though they didn't fully rebrand the company once again, they decided to bring Sci-Fi back to a focus on a little bit more science fiction and fantasy, kind of bringing that SYFY together for the first time since probably the very beginning. And I have noticed that the sci-fi broadcasting I see today is a lot more varied than it was a few years ago, and maybe it'll have an opening for more Stargate. Crazy Cosmo, signing off.